Good morning. Welcome to the Humanist Community Sunday Forum. My name is Alex Havasey. I'm a member of the Humanist community. The Humanist community is a chapter of the American Humanist Association. Humanism is a secular and reality-based philosophy of life that affirms our ability and responsibility to lead ethical lives of personal fulfillment that aspire to the greater good. If these words describe your thinking, we invite you to become a member of the Humanist community if you haven't done so already. Special welcome to those with us for the first time. We invite you to continue listening to our weekly programs, and you can find all our events on our website. Also, please help us continue presenting these forums by donating to the Humanist community. You can find out how to donate to our organization on the website, and our website is www.humanists.org. Oh, any feedback you give us on this or other forums will be appreciated. If you'd like to speak at a Humanist forum now, or know someone who would, there's a, or if there's a topic you think we should discuss, please let us know by writing to us at vp@humanist.org. Today, Chris Cassell will tell us about Pro Bono Photo, which serves the photo needs of social action and environmental organizations in the Bay Area by matching worthy organizations that need photographic and video services with volunteer photographers and videographers who donate their time and expertise. Chris will describe the evolution of Pro Bono Photo over the years, highlighted by photos from events that PDP, Pro Bono Photo, has covered. He'll also explore the notion that the effect of PBP's activities has been necessary but not sufficient. That is, through coordinating protests, Pro Bono Photo multiplies the effectiveness of those actions, helping to demonstrate that critical mass of Americans share their views and anger with the present administration. Chris is a retired aerospace engineer since working for Lockheed Martin in 1997. In 2012, he transitioned to being a co-founder and aerodynamics lead of the Deep Space Industries Incorporated. DSI had the long-term goal of near-Earth asteroid mining, but failed as a business in 2018. Chris has a BA in physics from the University of Chicago and a PhD in engineering sciences from UC San Diego. Chris is also a member of two religious humanist organizations, the Ethical Culture Society of Silicon Valley and the Unitarian Universalist Church of Palo Alto, where he's currently a member of the Action Council. So, Chris, you're on.
Okay. Thank you, Alex. Everyone hearing me okay? I'll get started here. Okay. Well, Alex gave me a very good introduction, so I can pretty much skip over what I was going to say in the first slide, since you heard it from Alex already. I will mention that though my aerospace background has no relevance to today's talk, I did give a talk for the Humanist community in 2017 about the humanities space frontier and its implications there. I could draw some connections to today's things, but I will not. Okay. On this slide is my personal photo site, and I'll mention that although I could have drawn a lot of material from that of other pro bono photographers, I've been with it long enough, and my experience is wide-ranging enough that I just use my own photos. Call that ego too, if you like. Okay. If you go to the Pro Bono Photo site, you'll see a mission statement, which describes pretty much what we're about. We're a clearinghouse that matches worthy organizations that need photographic or videographic services to volunteer photographers such as myself and videographers who wish to donate their time and expertise. Most of us are serious amateurs, but there are a few professionals among us. Our typical client falls in two basic camps, but there is a fair amount of overlap. Have political but nonpartisan organizations. We're advocating for causes, not a party or a candidate, though that does tend to fall into a certain demographic anyway. And otherwise, a less spectacular aspect of what we do is for nonprofit organizations which serve community service, social justice, or environmental advocacy. We favor supporting organizations that, okay. Okay, thank you, Carl. Got the message that I'm not being heard. We favor organizations that can't afford to pay for photographic services themselves and might not be covered by the mainstream media, but I'll mention that we do try to be sensitive about not taking work away from professional photographers who would be paid. Up until this year, we operated just within the greater San Francisco Bay Area, but have since expanded with a few photographers to the Sacramento area. Okay, and how we work. If you're an organization in need of such services, the operation is to contact the administrator at Pro Bono Photo. In the early days when we weren't too well known, we might reach out to event organizers if we know something that was coming up. But as we become better known, especially in the Bay Area, a larger proportion of organizations come to us for support of their events. If it's a new one that haven't supported before, then there's a little bit of a process of making sure that it's suitable for our sort of support. And then an email is broadcast to all the Pro Bono Photo affiliates or photographers. If one, and sometimes there are multiple affiliates interested in supporting an event, then they get back to everyone, and the event organizer is contacted for any logistics planning needed. But if no one responds, then unfortunately, we're not twisting anyone's arm on this, and we sometimes have to send our regrets to an organizer that we can't support their event. Now, after an event, the affiliate posts the photos in a designated gallery on the Pro Bono Photo site, from which the organizer, or anyone else for that matter, can view and download photos. Now, these can be used freely for non-commercial purposes. We do like, we require that, was I hearing some? We require that in any use, the photographer and Pro Bono Photo be credited. This is often not done, but that we strive towards that. For newsworthy events, we try to post at least some of the images within the news cycle, like the same evening. And we do not, it's built into the name, Pro Bono Photo. We do not charge for our services. Okay, now a little bit more about Pro Bono Photo. Jack Awicki, who is also a member of the UU Church of Palo Alto, founded it in February 2017, which is actually about a month after our first major event, the first Women's March in January 2017. The number of photographers has grown a lot since the beginning, and especially this year. given all the events. I got some numbers from Jack, the founder. I won't read them, but just to say that we have currently, well, 68 was the number I saw currently listed on the Pro Bono Photo site. There's probably a somewhat smaller number that have contributed within the last year or so, but it is a large number, and we tend to be geographically located. Like I personally cover events in San Jose to Palo Alto to maybe San Mateo, and very occasionally out on the East Bay, and others only cover San Francisco or Oakland or Berkeley or Marin and all that. The balance of what we do has shifted over the years between coverage of protests versus nonprofit events. In 2017, when we began, it was mostly protests. Then 2021, when Biden won the election, according to some, there was a gradual shift in our efforts towards nonprofit events. Now that we're back into Trump 2.0, we're mostly back to protests, and we'll see a little bit from that. The coverage of these two types has been rather different and with different expectations. As I say, for newsworthy events, which is largely the protests, we try to get some photos up quickly. I personally have had some difficulty meeting that challenge. I tend to do a little better for these nonprofit events, for which the organizer might find value in carefully selected and processed photos that they might use for the next year or so for their purposes. So there's a little bit of difference there, and we have to balance that. Jack has been in contact elsewhere with other like-minded photographers around the country. There have been an attempt or two to start up something similar in other parts of the country. I think there was one in Cleveland, Ohio, but it seems like Pro Bono Photo has been the only one nationally that has had that sort of success and traction over time. Though we'll get to this more a little bit later. We'll hope to encourage expansion as needed. Let's see, outline. Here I've gone through a basic introduction. I do have a question next that I'll pose for you to think about as we go through the slides and pictures, and then we'll get back to that in the discussion. I've kind of separated the types of events that we covered into large protests, and for large I mean that they're, like the Women's March, there were, both nationally and locally, many events. A few of them were very small, but many were large, and they were all pretty much the same day. And by past, I mean, before this year, because that has really changed the dynamic a lot. So I'll show a few from the past and also the present, which is pretty much a response to Trump 2.0. But there have also been many smaller protests, more localized, that we've covered. And there are also annual events that we covered, and I'll spend some time with the Day of Remembrance in San Jose, Japantown, because that has been especially meaningful to me. And I've also broken out, even though it could fall into the above large, small, past, present separation, environmental protests versus other environmental actions such as workshops and conferences, since those are kind of a point of attention in and of themselves. Workshops and conferences for other cause. I haven't covered too many of those, but I'll list a few. Then we'll get into a little summary, and then we can do some discussion. Okay, now the question I would like to pose to think about while we go through this is, does nonviolent street protest provide an effective counterforce to the push towards oligarchy and authoritarianism that we're currently seeing? It has been suggested that yes, and a particular number has been raised, like if 3.5% of the population became actively involved, then based on political science research, it's been concluded that very few of them are actually successful or can sustain their authoritarianism. There are a number of caveats to that, and we can get into that later. Or, you know, we may just be a bunch of left coast loonies waving signs in each other's faces to no real effect. You know, that's yeah, that's a danger, and I'd like to think that we go beyond that. And if we do, in fact, go beyond that in the effectiveness of such protests, does an organization such as Pro Bono Photo actually have a positive role in multiplying the effectiveness of that? Through documentation, you can see those photos again. It's not just an event sign waving for the day. Okay, so please hold that in mind. And okay, takes a few seconds to update. I'll go through some of these. This was some I took during the first Women's March, and I've only covered the one in San Jose. Of course, the well-known one was the one in Washington, D.C. And okay, this is a little bit of an insertion posing a question about photojournalism generally. These two images I made or adjusted from ones I took at the first Women's March. I would never, you won't find these on the Pro Bono Photo site, nor would I enter them in the photojournalism category at my camera club. Now, why is that? They are obviously manipulated. They started as color images, but I've selectively kept some of the color in the image and made the rest monochrome. Now, full color images or monochrome images are fine, but there is a lot of attention to the honesty of journalism images, and it's been very controversial over the past. You know, doing something like this is fairly obvious, an adjustment. But there are still gray areas. You know, the way I choose to convert it to monochrome or adjust lightness or darkness, and especially the way I crop it, could tell a very different story. But in general, you're trying to convey the reality of a situation and keep, you know, my interpretation pretty much out of it. So, okay, then, you know, I think a lot of people never even realized there were a second and third and fourth Women's March, but there were. And in San Jose, the second one actually, I think, became the largest of them. There was a change in route. I'll mention the first one marched from San Jose City Hall to the Chavez Plaza, which was fairly short. Number 2, 3, and 4 marched from San Jose City Hall over to Arena Green, which was longer. The second one here was, I believe, the largest of them. And I'll mention that the one on the right, the crowd shot from above, our founder, Jack Owicki, had scoped out the location in advance, a third floor of a parking garage. I happened to be the one who ended up there ahead of the march and took the picture. But it was fairly satisfying that the San Jose Women's March organization actually used it for close to 2 years to highlight their Facebook page. So that was rather nice. And then just a couple photos from the 3rd and 4th March. Today I'm wearing a shirt from the 3rd March as a volunteer for that. You know, it gets to be a lot of the same thing. So there's not much point showing a lot of photos of it, but you know, the point is, you know, the repetition and the continued attention to these issues. Okay, moving on from Women's March, another large one was in the wake of the school shootings at Parkland, Florida, the high school there. That generated the March for Our Lives about a month afterwards, and that was pretty near as large as the Women's March. I've shown a couple photos from that here with you know, some local students holding up signs describing the victims of those shootings, as well as Congresswoman Zolofgren, who was making a point with her little red F button that she was proud of the F grade that the NRA gave her. Okay, now present, meaning to 2025, we can make some distinction between the past protests, large protests, and the current ones. The first, in Trump 1.0, the things were somewhat haphazard. The first Women's March was very large, and most people remember that. But the succeeding protests were largely event-driven, not necessarily regular, though there were many of them. When Trump was elected again and became president again this year, I think we're seeing a shift in the planning on the part of the organizers more to have a regular and nationwide engagement to hopefully get to that critical mass that I alluded to a few slides ago. So you know, we started off relatively small compared to the first Women's March, which was probably the largest march of any, at least nationally. But here I list the events this year, approximately one per month, and they try to name them, you know, like we have Hands Off or Mayday Strong, or No Kings has been the largest one so far. You know, I think for the No Kings protests, they were feeling they got, you know, in excess of 5 million people engaged in that nationally. Perhaps some people here and online attended one or more of the protests. But that's still, you know, given that the population of the US is like 340 million, that's still like 1.5%. So we're not at that critical level, if in fact that has meaning. Okay, I'll just run through, since I covered a few of them, the People's March, which may have been rebranded by name from Women's March, the Saturday before the actual inauguration. I covered the one in Mountain View. Then May 1st, May Day Strong, I covered one in San Jose, starting in with a rally in King and Story Roads, and then marching to San Jose City Hall. This one, and I've focused on it here, it's about the only protest I've experienced where we had significant pushback from Trump supporters. It was nonviolent, but it was, you know, very small number, maybe a half dozen of them, but they had a rather large bullhorn, and they made a visible presence of themselves but they were hugely outnumbered and they eventually dispersed. But that in this area, this really the only activity by the opposition, if you will. Then No King's Day, I covered the one that was in Palo Alto to Sunnyvale along El Camino Real. That was probably the closest one for a lot of people here. My main contribution was, well, there were no speakers or marches for that, just lots of people lined up along this 7-mile stretch. And so how do you document that in a way that convinces you that you've got all these thousands of people? Well, the answer would be to video it, which I did. I'm very amateurish, and it's up on Pro Bono Photo, but here I've just given a couple of the still photos. Maybe I'll get better at videography, or maybe there are others who will step in with more professional talents in that area. And then most recently, just like a week ago, The Good Trouble Lives On. This was the 5th anniversary of the death of John Lewis, who was a civil rights advocate, well-known. Person on the left was an older woman who had been demonstrating since the 1950s. On the right at San Jose City Hall, people were invited to express their thoughts in chalk on the plaza there. Okay. But it's not all large protests in the past and the present. The Raging Grannies have been quite a player in local events. I know Senna is a Raging Granny with the San Jose group. But I will go on here and not talk more about that. But I will talk some about, especially about the Day of Remembrance in San Jose, Japantown. It commemorates the anniversary of Executive Order 9066, signed by Franklin Delano Roosevelt. I think it was February 17th, 1942, which led to the internment of Japanese Americans during the war. I would probably not be as interested in this, except that the organizers, the Nihon Maki Outreach Committee, has made this event a platform not only to address the injustice back in World War II, but to address present day injustices. And we're seeing a repetition of the same sort of type of thing going on. The program has a pattern, speeches by politicians and representatives of some marginalized groups, then lighting of candles on a diorama that you'll see in a moment, then a candlelight procession through the streets of Japantown, and then maybe more speeches, and then San Jose Taiko generally performs there, and that's always very entertaining. Yeah, I'll proceed here. This year, 2025, the picture on the left shows Becky from the NOC addressing current injustices. She was holding a red card which has information for contacting the organization that works to document ICE activity and be cognizant of that, and informs people of their rights as immigrants in the face of ICE incursion. The one on the right, a couple years, well, several years earlier, Lawson Sakai was a soldier during World War II, rather distinguished, while his fellow Japanese Americans were being interned in the camps. So, you know, there's certainly an injustice there. He has since passed away. This might have been one of his last public appearances. Then here on the left, I'm showing the diorama, which shows the internment. There were 10 internment camps during World War II, and those are shown here. And people are preparing to go out into the streets of Japantown. And the photo on the right is from one such procession. And then we have the always entertaining San Jose Taiko performing. And I didn't realize this at first, but in this photo with the fellow jumping over the drum, we've got Norman Mineta and Mike Honda, who were both child internees in the camps, viewing from the left. And on the right, I've got just a more pleasing photo of them and other older Japantown elders. Okay, moving on. Another annual event that we've been covering is the World Refugee Day. There are speeches addressing the refugee crisis, awards made, and most interesting to photographers, the cultural performances by various ethnic groups. And that's always been a fun one to photograph. Okay, then I'll move on to environmental protests, starting with the one day that I probably came closest to the potential for being arrested. And that was when 350 Silicon Valley, if you don't know, it's an organization. The 350 refers to the level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere in parts per million that is thought to be sustainable without a runaway greenhouse effect. We, of course, are over 400 right now. But 350 Silicon Valley has been very in your face on their protests, and they carried on this day their protests not just in the parking lot of Wells Fargo branches, but inside the branches, which is probably illegal. Wells Fargo was the target because, and they were calling them oily wells, not Wells Fargo. They're a major funder of fossil fuel infrastructure projects. So they are one that they have particularly targeted. They also, in 2019, led a 3-day, 36-mile march from Palo Alto to Wells Fargo headquarters in San Francisco. I covered the first day of the march. Two other photographers did the second and third day. Okay, I should move on. And then there are other organizations. Silicon Valley Youth Climate Strike in 2019 had a fairly large one marching from the Diridon station to San Jose City Hall. And on the right, we see Mayor Liccardo giving a speech there to enthusiastic reception. Okay, but protests isn't all that have been going on. We also cover various workshops and conferences. I've listed here the ones that I've covered over the years, and I'll just show photos from a couple of them. There was in 2018 a transforming conservation workshop in which international practitioners from all walks of academia, industry, and government came together at the Kennelin camp in Soquel to strategize about conservation goals. And also more recently, late last year, the Elders Climate Action hosted a future design retreat, which had interesting concepts of role playing, taking on, pretending that you are actually Californians from the future and dealing with climate issues and addressing that. And they tried very much to have intergenerational participation in that, and that was part of their signature of this. Other causes, there have been a number of them kind of falling generally into medical, educational, and social services. I've listed ones that I've covered. Other pro bono photographers have covered a lot more, but I won't go into that. So now I will just sum it all up. That pro bono photo fills two roles, the need for which has, for better or worse, only grown over the years since our founding in 2017. One is documenting protest actions, and the other is documenting of workshop conferences and other activities by nonprofit organizations. One thing, early this morning, as I was wrapping this up, I got an email from Robert Reich. I subscribed to his Substack. Robert Reich was the former Secretary of Labor under President Clinton. And if you'll bear with me, I think what he had to say here was very apropos to what we're talking about now. It was a Sunday thought: the more Trump's tyranny is exposed, the stronger the resistance. Friends, Trump has entered a new and wilder stage of authoritarian neo-fascism. No holds barred, nothing out of bounds, rapacious, racist, nativist, vindictive, corrupt. In his desperate attempt to deflect attention from his involvement with Jeffrey Epstein, he's even accusing Barack Obama of treason. If you're also horrified by all this, know that most other Americans are too, if polls are to be believed. Resistance is more important than ever. We are deeply indebted to all the judges who are trying to stop this. Most have shown themselves to be principled, steadfast, and courageous. Gratitude is also due the public servants still in their jobs who are standing up to this. We are grateful to all the communities trying to protect their neighbors from Trump's vicious anti-immigrant dragnet. Thankful also to the teachers, public employees, workers, and grassroots groups fighting his attacks on the poor and needy. To the professors, administrators, and students joining together to fight his attacks on higher education. Appreciative of all who are protesting, demanding, refusing to submit, making good trouble, and remaining hopeful. The more Trump's tyranny is exposed, the stronger the resistance. The worse it gets, the larger the backlash. The crueler and more vicious his regime becomes, the more powerful the alliances being formed at every level of society and the world to stop him. We will sweep vulnerable Republican lawmakers out of office in 2026 or before. We will support groups like the ACLU that are taking Trump to court. We will stop the lies and spread the truth. Tyrants cannot succeed where people refuse to submit to them. We will not submit. We will emerge from this stronger than we were before and more committed to democracy and the common good. Be safe, be strong, hug your loved ones. I hope you don't mind that fairly long passage, but I thought it really spoke to what I'm trying to address here, and what Pro Bono Photo is really about and trying to support. So at this point, I'll close my presentation and open it up to questions, maybe starting with what I posed earlier. Let me see if I can, maybe I should go back to that. Yeah. Okay. And then just go on to any other questions or issues people would like to address. So thank you. Okay. Sure. Let's see. Okay, looks like I'll get back to Zoom. And stop share. Okay. Alrighty.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I was wondering when you take these pictures, they're mass events, so I guess you don't have to worry about whether someone does not want their picture in
Okay.
the news.
That permission is a issue. It hasn't come up too much legally. Somebody attending any event in a public space is supposedly legal to photograph and publish their photograph, though we do try to be sensitive to that. It's easier for the events that are like a conference or workshop. If there's somebody who doesn't want to be photographed, there's a chance that we can accommodate that and not take their photo, or not publish a photo that includes them. But in the large mass protests, it's not really practical, and I think Pro Bono Photo has taken the approach that it's not something that we can implement, and we go by the letter of the law.
Jerry. Oh, Jerry, you got your hand up.
Yeah, I participated in 4 of the anti-Trump protests since his second inauguration, and I've seen a number of photos of the demonstrations, but almost all the ones I've seen came from Pro Bono, and they certainly were good for my morale, and I think for a lot of other protesters as well. Also, I had a question, which is, they sometimes they have these protests on the beach at Ocean Beach in San Francisco, and they have these pictures that must have been taken from helicopters. I was wondering whether Pro Bono was involved with that. I'm done.
Okay, a helicopter, or more likely drone. In general, we have not been doing drone photography because there is more of a legal issue there. Apparently, one could, and we've done some of this, if you have a certain certification by the FAA, it's called Part 107, which makes you a licensed drone flyer or pilot, then you have more leeway to take photos of events. There are some pro bono photography photos that are obviously taken from drone, but so far they're relatively few. They will probably increase as more people. I've started flying drones in the last couple of years, but I don't have that certification, so I'm not doing it at any of the events that I cover.
Okay, you get people who contact you requesting photographers. Is it generally the same groups, or do you have some idea who's apt to call you in the next couple months?
Well, couple months, I don't know, but there are a set of people, I can, Day of Remembrance, for example, regularly wants us there. Others, some of them are approaching us for the first time. Others have been regulars for several years, and so they're kind of, we have certain expectations with respect to the ones that we know already. For the ones we don't know, there's maybe a little more vetting process. I'm not sure I answered your question.
Well, actually, you bring up another one. What is the vetting process?
Just our administrators, which is primarily Jack Owicki, but there are a couple other pro bono photographers involved. And I'm checking out that an organization is, who they say they are, and that they do in fact are ones that are small enough that they might not need or might need our photo services. They can't afford professional photographers, in other words. And basically we are, we're not a 501c3. That's a whole process that we've elected to not go down that path, but we're still trying to be nonpartisan. We do advocate for particular actions, I'm trying to, not events, but causes, but not a party or candidate. We've been avoiding that.
Senna.
Well, it's wonderful that you do this. You must have quite a file of previous events, right? That you have pictures of. Not loud enough. You must have quite a file of previous pictures that you have in your possession. You have access to.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure. Yes, it's Pro Bono Photo. The website that Pro Bono Photo that is paid for by the founder, Jack Owicki. It's something he can afford. We're avoiding all costs other than that, and he's taking that on himself. But the complete history of everything we've covered is arranged chronologically. You can go into the Pro Bono Photo site and see what's up there by year first. And then if there were a number of actions in the, like the ones this year, No King's Day, there's a folder with all the No King's events, each with a gallery at a different location. So the one I shot was one of those galleries.
So what I'm wondering was, if wanted to get a picture of a particular event, is there a way to request that?
You can just do it yourself.
Okay.
Anyone
I
can
guess I'll
go
have to-
on the.
I'll have to find out how to do that.
Yeah.
Do you are you interested in having photos donated for particular events to add to your file or to be available?
Okay, that's a good question. We typically only use photos that were taken by people who are, officially Pro Bono Photo affiliates or photographers. I don't know of adding photos taken from outside.
Mhm.
Could contact the organizer or
It
the
sounds like-
administration to see if that.
So it's no, right? You cannot request a photo from a particular place.
Well, you're free to download from the library that's there, but contributing new ones, I could see that being a good idea. I don't think it's been done.
Okay, well, it's wonderful you do it, and about the talk, it's very interesting to hear it all. It would have been nice to have a picture on the side. Some of them you did have a picture on the side, but it would be nice for them sort of a picture on the side of the print when you have a slide up there. That's all. Anyway, thank you so much for doing this.
Okay, I didn't quite understand what you said there, but I'll talk to you.
Well, you show slides. You have a page of print, and then sometimes you have a little picture on one side of it on your
Are we
slide.
talking about my presentation today?
Yeah, right. It's just a thought that I liked it when you had a little picture next to the print, and it would be nice if there were more of them like that. But that's just
Yeah.
thinking of what you could do. You probably have plenty of what you want to do without.
Yeah,
much.
I tried
Thank you
to
so much.
pull from the thousands of pictures to keep it relatively close to 30 minutes presentation. So
Okay, Jerry.
we have well,
Oh.
whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe you said that you only go to nonpartisan events. So I assume that means that you don't do Republican events and Democratic events. Does it also mean you don't do a Green Party, Libertarian, Peace and Freedom, American Independent Party, and other political parties?
That would be true. Yeah, trying to keep it nonpartisan. Of course, they support causes that we support. So as long as it's something that might be, for example, Medicare for all, I've covered such an event. I didn't show a photo from that, but you know, that's something that certain parties will tend to support. But you know, if it's labeled, you know, Green Party or something, then we would be cautious about supporting that.
And so I assume you've never done anything pro Second Amendment?
Good. Well, I showed some photos from the March for Our Lives, which was a reaction to school shootings. And that was, you know, and in one of the photos behind Congresswoman Lofgren, you could see label of the Giffords, you know, Gabby Gifford's fund. So, you know, I think, well, I'm not necessarily the one to answer that, but I would think that something that was against Second Amendment or modifying it would be okay, as long as we're not advocating a candidate or a political party.
Well, I was asking whether or not you would cover a pro Second Amendment event.
Oh, well, we are of a progressive bent, you know. You know, these protests were, you know, nonpartisan, but very much anti-Trump, for example. So you can infer that that's anti-Republican, but, you know, we're not explicitly that way, if that helps. We're just avoiding the label.
Okay.
Carl, you had your hand up?
Yeah, first I wanted to point out that anyone in the room can raise their hand and ask a question. We'll call you on in turn. So I just wanted to point out that we're reading a book now called Autocracy Incorporated. And it mentions in the book the answer to your question, the one you were presenting, which is, do these protests work?
Mhm.
And it goes into some detail about the fact that yes, they do. And he explains how to gather them together. So it's published in 2024, 2025. Remember? I can't remember. It's just recently published.
Yeah, along those lines, you know, I didn't have a chance to dig deeply. I know that the organizations, or you know, that are organizing the national protests are cognizant of trying to get this critical mass, but where does that come from? Is it really a valid number? They cite, well, this Erica Chenoweth, who did political study. Maybe it's has some bearing on the study you cite. You know, I can't. I didn't have time to come up with examples from the past 100 years where, okay, actually they had 3.5% or so of people opposing a government, and it actually changed something. And there are one thing that I got from this, though, was that they found that nonviolent protest was much more effective than violent ones, about twice as effective, though I can't, you know, vouch for that number. And I think you can see a little bit of that when Trump called in the National Guards into LA. You know, part of the justification was that there was some violence. If it had been totally peaceful, you know, you wouldn't have as much of a leg to stand on, I think, for that. So they're trying to make a point that nonviolence is important and effective. So,
Paul.
So, thank you. So The two different kinds of events that you cover, there's the one where you're working with the organization and you're making images that they're going to use for their own marketing or what have you. Clear how those get distributed. When you're going to shoot the other kind that are more
Protest.
called photojournalistic kind of images, how do you distribute those other than just sort of putting them up on the Pro Bono site? And hoping people
Okay,
find them?
we're largely in contact with the organizations that are, hosting these. Like there is for example, a San Jose Women's March organization, and we coordinated with them before those protests. And same with the March for Our Lives and many of the environmental ones. So either way, whether it's a protest or just an organizational workshop or meeting or something, we're mostly coordinating with an organizer. There are some of the many protests around the Bay Area. The organizer for, say, San Jose might approach us. They have some history with us. Others, some of the smaller ones in various remote places, we know about it because it's on the website as a potential place to go to, but there may or may not be contact with the organizer. We feel better if we do coordinate with the organizer, but we may still show up at some of these protests even without.
And in that case, the images just go on the Pro Bono site?
Yeah, there'll be a gallery for that, and we'll try to contact organizer if there is one. There usually is somebody organizing it, and we do make the attempt to.
And are you hoping that those images get picked up by AP or the Chronicle or the Mercury News? Or?
Good question. There has been more attention to getting it out in the general media. And we, especially with things like No Kings, we tried to seed the media with information about, here is the folder where our galleries are going to be. Please look at them. And that's another reason for trying to get a few photos out early in the news cycle. We're making a stronger attempt to get the attention to the photos out in the general media than perhaps in the early years.
Senna.
Did I understand you to say there's a place you could go and look at the pictures? A website or something like that?
Yeah, it's on the presentation charts. I could share later if that's
Can you write what
desirable. It's probonophoto.org.
So, is he giving you directions of how to go and look at it? No.
Okay.
Not yet.
Yeah. Carl is saying that Greg will put the website in the chat. Yeah.
And is it possible or okay to copy one?
Oh, yeah. That's
Right.
It's not just for the organizers of a protest.
Wonderful.
Anybody can.
Oh, wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah. There are a few events that, I can cite. There was an environmental one where Acterra, which is an environmental group, was doing a workshop, urban gardening, and it involved like middle school kids, and they didn't want those photos in a public place. So that's an exception, but in general, it's public for anyone to see or use, as long as you give us the suitable credit. Which often doesn't happen.
Website, right?
You can go to the website, you can download, heck, you could download all the pictures from a gallery if you wanted
Thank
to,
you
which you
so
probably
much.
don't, but you can download them individually.
Okay, Jim.
Yeah, just a question about your style. I noticed you're shooting most of your pictures head on and people are smiling, looking at you kind of that way. Do you ever do the street photography approach where you're taking kind of anonymous shots from the side where people aren't looking, they don't know they're being photographed, just for a different perspective on the event?
if I got your question right, that tends to be actually my kind of style. I'm not really a people person. I don't set people up for shots as some photographers do. You know, I take a lot of photos. Some of them work, some of them don't.
But you actually go out of your way to sometimes take shots.
Yeah,
that people aren't
I
looking
do
at you right away.
often
Yeah.
ask people, especially, you know, you show up at, Chavez Plaza, for example, if there's some protest going on and there's a bunch of tabling by various organizations, I'll try to be systematic and take photos of each table, showing not just the people, but, you know, the label of their organization if I can. And, you know, it's nice to get their attention and smiling then. But yeah, I'm reminded though, some perspective early on. You have these protests and you like to see people angrily pumping their fists in the air, but in fact, you know, half the people are looking at their cell phones. And it kind of takes away from that.
I think the privacy issue too is very interesting. I've shot events where what they do is they put a poster outside saying, if you attend this meeting, you're going to get your picture taken. And if you don't want your picture taken, let us know.
Yeah.
Or you go out and do some shoots and they're fairly personal. So you get a photo release if you're going to use them for a major production kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's all different way you do it. And one other thing I've noticed that keeping kids out of the picture is the best thing possible. Never shoot a face head on like that. It doesn't work for anybody. So
Thank you. Jerry or Dana? I see your hand back.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention something I read on the website, which is they ask for people who download photographs to make sure to give credit to the photographer. Maybe credit to somebody else, to something else too. I can't remember. I think that's a very good thing.
Well, yeah, and you know, some organizations are better than that than others. The Raging Grannies have always been very good at giving us credit. Other groups and Day of Remembrance organizers have been very good. Other groups, you know, not so good. You'll chance into your photo on their website and no attribution. You know, I can understand that sometimes it's difficult to do depending on how they post it on their site, but we do ask for that. Yeah.
By the way, I saw the video you took of the No Kings March.
Okay, there were like 23 segments because we were stopped at lights a lot.
Were you on your bicycle at that time?
No, I was a passenger in a car.
Okay. It was impressive to watch the whole line from the beginning to end. You know?
You watched several segments of it. There were like,
I guess so. Yeah.
Okay.
But
I haven't even watched
Jerry.
all of
I
them.
think Jerry sent me the
traffic was such that it took like an hour and a half to go the 7 miles from the Tesla showroom in Palo Alto to the Tesla showroom in Sunnyvale.
Yeah, it was nice. I don't go to many demonstrations, you know, because we don't walk that much basically, but it felt good to be there with all that support.
Yeah.
You know, even cars driving by, I didn't see.
Yeah, the cars were actually a large part of that. Yeah, I think I showed a picture in this presentation of a World War II Jeep with associated sign, still fighting for freedom after 80 years. Or
Jerry?
Yeah, so I wanted to participate in the No Kings thing, and I went on the website, and there were several things that I could participate in, but the idea of a 7-mile thing was very appealing to me, and they were hoping for 7,000 people to participate. I don't know what their expectations were, but I thought that 7,000 was an aggressive target. Afterwards, the organizers said they estimated the numbers from I think it was 15,000 to 20,000, but I can assure you that it was well over 7,000 there. It was a delight to be part. Oh, and there were 16 segments, not 23 segments.
16 segments that they divided the 7 miles into. You're right on that. And they were asking participants to sign up for one of them so that people would be spread out. I was talking about the videos I was taking, being such an amateur. I did it in 23. There are 23 videos up there of varying lengths. Didn't want to sit with my camera going for too many minutes as we were stopped by traffic or stoplights. Yeah, let's see. There was something else I was going to say, but I've forgotten now. Yes.
Geographically, are you focused primarily on San Jose and Silicon Valley, or do you do San Francisco as well? Or
Yeah. Since the beginning, we've been all over the Bay Area, from, Marin and such, coast, San Francisco, Oakland, Berkeley, Walnut Creek, all over the East Bay, and even do some things south of here. I think the southernmost large events are probably San Jose, and then just recently this year we've gotten a few photographers covering Sacramento, so we've expanded our coverage that way. And yeah, as indicated, doesn't seem to have gotten traction elsewhere in the country, at least not successfully, but I could see that there would be, it would be useful and good if it did, but we're not the group to go too far out of where we're at right now.
Okay, Paul?
I just wanted to ask specifically about the Twin Cities in Minnesota. Have you heard of any efforts there in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and the large metropolitan area?
To
there?
do this sort of group, I have not personally.
I'm gonna spread some ideas to some people there.
Yeah, anything that you can do to spread thoughts would be good.
They can check your website.
Yeah, and then they can contact Jack or somebody to see how to go about it. That would be great.
Do any of your photos or photos from Pro Bono appear on TV news, MSNBC or something?
Well, like I said, a lot of them get incorporated into news articles, and we're asking the affiliates to share links to articles when that happens. And it seems to be occurring more regularly, which is a good thing.
Yeah. Okay. Any more questions? Well, shall we break for lunch then? And if there's more conversation going on on Zoom, Greg, you can handle that?
Yes,
Good.
I'll keep the chat open, keep Zoom open until about, up to 1, depending on how interested people are in continuing to discuss this topic.
Okay, and thanks for saving all the comments in the chat window also.
Yes.
Yes, there are links in the chat for some of the topics that were raised in the presentation today.
Yeah, tell them we're going to be shutting down locally here at 12:30. In other words, you won't be able to see him anymore.
Actually, I thought we'd do it now.
Want to do it now?
Well, I don't see any more questions.
Oh, no,
I can call on someone.
No, I think,
Is there a donation?
I think Greg will shut it. We'll shut our computer locally here
Uh-huh.
at 12:30, and Greg can just continue the conversation.
Okay.
And somebody will save the chat if it's not done already.
Yeah, I have to save the chat.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for your presentation, and